Okay. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to test without the mic. Can you guys hear me okay at the back? Yeah? Okay. So I'm just going to not use these mics because they're big and heavy and like my hands will get tired, right? Okay. So welcome to the Veda course. Now, some of you are probably volunteers. Any volunteers here? Oh, wow. Okay. Most of you were volunteers. And then some of you signed up. Hands up. Okay, nice. So I'm Bhakti Govindam Das. And just a bit of background about myself, just so you know who you're speaking to, and I'm not just a random person that's come to the temple and decided to give class. So I actually have a background in maths and physics from the University of Cambridge. And unfortunately, 2 weeks into my course, my professor told me that actually science can't prove anything. It can only disprove things. So when that happened, I was like, okay, I joined this science course to try and understand life, understand the world. And ultimately, my professor, who I'm meant to be taking all this education from, she's telling me, you're not going to find this here. So that actually started my own spiritual journey. So I read through many, many different things like Quran, Hadith, Tao scripts, things like that. And then ultimately in 2019, I went to Detroit for work. And I basically fell in love with the deities there. I was spoken to by a devotee who encouraged me to read the Bhagavad Gita. And when I went through the philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita, I found that a lot of my unorthodox questions were basically answered. So I came to Srila Prabhupada's movement because I went down the scientific route and I found that the scientists themselves are saying, you're not going to find what you're looking for here. And then all my search, I found that the essence of all the scriptures, of all the different paths, religions, spiritual paths, whatever you want to call them, they basically say that the essence is to develop a loving relationship with God. And so I'm here now working outside, like many of you probably are, as a solution architect. At least that's my profession in IT. But then thinking that I've got these jewels and I want to share those jewels with other people. So that's what my spiritual masters also asked me to do. Spiritual master meaning guru. So that's why I'm here today. And I want to start off by asking you guys, what do you guys associate with the manor? Like, what sort of things do you think of when you think of the Bhaktivedanta Manor? You can just shout them out. I'll start you off, right? Free prasadam. Anyone? Best samosas. Are we just saying that because you had to wait for the samosas? No, joking. Anyone? Peace and sanity. Okay. Bhakti. Okay. Sorry? Admiring architecture. Okay, nice. Yes. Kirtan. Srila Prabhupada's love. Okay, interesting. Seva, service.
And unselfish service, I would say.
Okay, selfless service. Darshan. Okay, so the ability to see the deities. Feeling at home. Does anybody resonate with that?
Belonging.
Oh, nice. So one other thing that Bhaktivedanta Manor we're trying to make known for is spiritual education. So with material education, you think about it, if you want to learn some material science, some material subject, where do you go? School, university, college. If you want to be a doctor, you need to go to a medic, like a medical university, right? If you want to learn how to be an engineer, you go to a course, you study a course of engineering. But if you want to learn about spirituality, about life, about God, where do you go? You have to find a spiritual center, right? You have to find a spiritual school. And that's what we want the Bhaktivedanta Manor to also be known by. It's a community where we want your help to actually build this community where all the people that come here, they recognize that if they want to grow in their spiritual life, if they want to find that peace, that sanity, if they want to find bhakti, as somebody had mentioned, then the manor is one of those places that you can go. And so all of you here, like some of you are volunteers, some of you have come because you signed up to the course, signed up to the first course, which is Veda course. And as part of this, it's a 4-session course. We'll go through successful life, art of life, navigating difficulties, and everyday bhakti yoga. This idea that actually we want spirituality to be known as something which is not just the Sunday, come to the temple Sunday time, but it's actually something we can integrate into our everyday life. Something that when you look around, anybody who you see wearing the dhoti guaranteed, wearing maybe a sari with tilak, with a leaf as well, they're all trying to bring bhakti, this idea of their relationship with God, into their everyday life. And the first thing that we'll discuss today is this idea of successful life. So, whoops, went too far, and I gave it away. But this is like a common theme or a common scene for the London Underground, right? Has anybody experienced this? Peak hours, London Underground? So everybody's going to work practically, and you're one of these people in this picture, in one of the pictures that's taken, right? What are people rushing on the train for? Work. Anything else?
To get work.
Get home. Okay, so in the evening, get home. Somebody's late for a meeting. Somebody needs to pick up a coffee before they go to work because they're like, I can't, I woke up and I just need my coffee or tea. We're all rushing around with a sense of, I just need to go do the next thing. I need to get to work. Once work is finished, I need to get home. I need to go to the shops. But do we ever stop to reflect and think, what's the difference between us and rats? Because when we think of rats, we can picture the rats are basically just non-stop, just running on a wheel, right? Or a hamster wheel. Hamsters on a hamster wheel. They're just constantly going from one place to the other place. They're like, okay, this is where this is where that is. Always trying to get the next thing. But life, is that what success is in life? Just going, getting to work on time, getting the promotion at work, career development, having a family. If we stop to reflect and think, then we realize that actually this rat race of life doesn't give us the happiness or the peace that we're actually after, right? If you pause for 5 minutes and just reflect on your own time, on your own family, on your own sense of who we are, we find that, at least most of us will find that there's something missing. We might be CEO of the biggest company, we might be the prime minister. We might have a big 4-bed house, a Tesla, a Jaguar in the garage, but something's still missing. The question is, if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. This idea that what if our definition of success is actually taking us to the wrong wall? What if we're actually getting to the top of something that actually you get to the top of, and actually that's not real success? Because think about anything in this world. We're after success. We go get it, but it's never enough, right? You want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So you're never content. Does anybody have that feeling? Nods, some people putting their hand up. This idea that whatever I'm doing, I think I'm being successful, but I'm not actually successful. Because you've got it, but you still want something else now. There's this different type of success that you're looking for. So if we actually want to look at success, then we can see that success is not always about reaching the top of the ladder. It's about making sure the ladder is leaning against the right wall, trying to understand, reflect, introspect. What is the right wall for me to actually define my success? Sure. So question for you guys, I'm just going to give Mike out. What do you guys define as success? Anybody?
Peace, content, and peace in life.
Feeling content and peace? Can you hear that at the back as well? Okay, fine. I won't use mics. You guys are amazing crowd. You have really good hearing.
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction. Okay. Anyone else?
Content.
Contentness. Happy family. Okay.
Get stuff done.
Getting stuff done. Okay, so a sense of achievement.
Purpose.
Fulfillment of purpose. Okay. Any others? Sorry?
Oneness to God.
Oneness to God. Okay, could you elaborate on that?
I mean, because for me, it's more about the passion that you deliver your work with, and then you basically achieve that with the nature and oneness. That's success for me, actually.
Okay, so if I rephrase that, that's like aligning your work with a higher purpose. Okay. Okay, achievement of goals in different areas of life.
Fulfilling of the purpose of human life.
Okay, and what is that purpose?
Attain mukti, nirvana.
Okay, mukti, nirvana. So we actually asked ChatGPT to categorize success that different people consider success. And we got a list of 10. And when you think of success in your mind, you can see like, where does your successes kind of, which categories does it fall in? So the first one we had is freedom, this ability to make choice. Yeah, I have the choice to come to the manor. I have the choice to go to the pub, but I have the choice to do it. Second one, achievement oriented. So somebody had said achievement, somebody said, accomplishing tasks. This idea that we've actually achieved a milestone. Third, progress perspective. We're growing, we're actually doing something, we're going somewhere. Wealth. Interestingly, not many people talked about this, but this idea that, we're all working so hard because we want the next big thing. We want the house, we want the car. Okay, that's not enough. So we want all this fancy jewelry.
No.
Never ending.
That's why we have come here.
Right? Status, name, fame. We want, when we walk out of the house, we want people to know who we are. When we walk into the family event, we want people to go, oh, there's this person that's come. Oh my gosh, let's all just rush around them. The most popular person in the room. Knowledge. People find knowledge to be one of their successes, knowing a bit about everything. I remember I had a colleague in my previous job. You could literally ask about any subject matter, whether it was related to IT or not. It might be related to some like biochemical thing that's happening on the other side of the world, and he'd know about it. Health. Some people just want a nice healthy body, but then others might be going six-pack abs, beach body. Some people have these goals, right? That's what they define as success. Balance. This idea that we've got so many different parts of our life, but are we able to integrate and actually work with each of those? And they define that as success if they're able to balance all their parts of life. Work, family, spirituality, friends. Self-actualization. This idea that I need to make progress to be the best version of me. It's not about the external achievements. It's about the internal cultivation. And the last one, self-fulfillment. Aligning our progress, aligning where we're going in life for a higher purpose. Now, it's interesting, when you look at the first 7, like the very linear, the very specific areas of life, freedom, okay, like this ability to actually go out and be us, right? Be ourselves. Achievement, actually fulfilling and being successful in whatever we find valuable. Progress, again, you're not going to make progress in something you don't care about. You're focused. Wealth, self-explanatory. Status, again, this idea that we want to be somebody. Knowledge, health, they're all very like specific areas of life. Yeah, they're all codependent. But like, for example, if one of your successes in life is having a six-pack abs, it's like very specific minded goal. But then when you look at something like balance, it's actually saying, I know I've got all these different facets of my life, but I actually want to make sure that is my success. How I actually navigate all of that is my success. When you look at self-actualization, it's this idea that, okay, I might be successful in all of these things, but am I actually focusing on myself? On my true self? Am I, like health, for example, a lot of people will go six-pack ab because they've seen magazines with celebrities, etc., with six-pack abs, and like, that's the type of body I want. But self-actualization is about being the best version of me. And then self-fulfillment is this idea that we're being the best version of me, but aligning it with a spiritual compass, with a higher purpose in mind. When you look at these, you can actually categorize them. For some of you, you may know something called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Has anybody heard of this? Okay, a few people. So let's talk about it a bit. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is basically a categorization of what people, the consciousness of people and what they find most valuable. Yeah. So they're not exclusive, but as you progress, as your consciousness progresses, you kind of go up the chain. So first one, psychological needs. This idea of, okay, if I just get water, food, shelter, I'm happy. Then as you progress a bit more, then you find safety becoming important. This idea that, okay, I need a job, I need security, I need good health. It's not that the psychological needs become redundant. It's not that you don't value them. But if you just had these, you won't be happy because you need this now. And likewise, the next layer of consciousness that he describes is love and belonging, this idea that we have relationships. And in order for me to feel happy, I need relationships in life. I need safety, and I need the food, the water, etc. as well. But to be happy, I need relationships. And then esteem, this idea that, okay, I'm actually worth something. And then the last one is self-actualization, that I'm actually being the best version of me. And that's a modern diagram, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's interesting, bringing it back to the course, the Vedas. The same description is reflected in the Vedic literature. You've got something called the koshas. It's actually a pancha kosha, 5 kosha model. And koshas are basically like sheaths or layers. The best way you can see it is like, if you imagine Russian dolls, I'm hoping everybody knows Russian dolls. So it's basically like a doll inside a doll inside a doll inside a doll. And these are different layers of that. So the innermost doll, you have something called Anandamaya Kosh, this idea of bliss. Yeah. Where you're looking at you and your relationship with God. The next layer out is called Vijnana Maya Kosh, this idea of intelligence, this idea of seeking knowledge becomes important. Then you've got Manamaya Kosh, this idea of relationships. The social circumstance becomes important to you. Pranmaya, this idea of energy, like the health, the vitality side of things. And then the Annamaya, this idea of just eat, drink, and be merry. So again, when you go through life, when you go through reverse order with consciousness, you see at the lowest level, people are just thinking, okay, I need to work because I need food. I need to work because I need shelter. But then there comes a point where you start working because actually you want to have good health. So you want to pay for the gym subscription. And then you come to a point where, okay, I've got my gym subscription, but now I want to do something for the community. I want to give back. I want to volunteer. I want to do something. And then, okay, I'm doing something, but now you might come to a point of wisdom where it's like, okay, what more is there? What can I actually know in life? And then ultimately, when you reach the highest level of consciousness, you come to Anandamaya, which is knowing that the summum bonum of all knowledge is our relationship with God. So what the Vedic literature actually teaches us is that there's 3 layers of identity, right? So if we categorize these, you can see there's 3 layers. There's the gross body, which is the physical body, right? This idea of food, water, shelter, health. Then you've got the subtle body, which is your mind and intelligence. This idea of relationships, this idea of knowledge. But then we've got the soul. Anandamaya stage, where we recognize who we are. We're a spirit soul living a human experience. We as a spirit soul have a relationship with God. Now, I'm talking about the Vedic literature, the Vedas, but what are the Vedas? What does Vedic literature mean to you? Well, let's have this side. Not many people have been speaking. I see somebody's smiling because they don't want me to pick them. So, Hare Krishna. Guesses, just guesses.
Instructive manual have given the material.
Okay, instruction manual for the material world. Interesting you mentioned that. Okay, so just something how to navigate life in this world. Okay.
How to attain Anandamaya Kosha?
How to attain Anandamaya Kosha, okay.
How to connect with God.
How to connect with God. Does anybody think they're like Hindu scriptures? Put your hands up if you think they're Hindu. Okay, a couple. So those who didn't put your hand up, what do you think the Vedic literatures are there? To take us to the ultimate Christian consciousness, okay?
I think this concept is more about a life rather than that applies to any religion, any caste.
Okay,
So this so I think it's called Sanatan.
Sanatan, okay.
To everyone.
Okay, yeah, so it's irrespective of which religion you are, which country you're from, which color of your skin is. Sanatan, this idea of eternality, eternal knowledge. That's pretty much that, right? Veda literally means knowledge. And when we talk about knowledge, it's about physical and metaphysical. This idea that it's about this world as well as beyond this world. And when we go, when we look at this, so this is like a breakdown of all the Vedic literature, yeah? So some of you may have seen it before, but you see on the left, you've got something called Shruti, and on the right, you've got Smriti. Does anybody know the difference? So Shruti is that which is heard, yeah? So generally, like if you think of the Vedas, the Rig, Yajur, Sam, you actually hear them, right? Idea of pronunciation, or if you've got like Jyotishya, astrology, or you've got like the Upaveds, like Dhanurved, Ayurved. Dhanurved is the art of fighting, art of archery. Then Ayurved, which most of you will know, this idea of vitality through the Vedic literature, how to lead a good, healthy life. And then Smriti is that which is remembered, right? So generally you'd pass them down, and also you actually want to learn how this applies to life. So here you've got things like the Puranas, the Itihasas. Itihasas meaning something like the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, which many will know. Then you've got things like Patanjali Yoga System, which many of you will know as well. So a lot of these is basically we take the teachings and apply them to life. We don't just read the Mahabharata or the Ramayana because they're just stories of God, but there's lessons to be learned from them that we apply into our life. Whereas if you think of something like Jyotish or Ayurveda, etc., yeah, we learn and apply them, but they themselves are the principles that we apply. So this is like a breakdown of all the Vedic literature. And when you actually analyze all of these literatures, you find that most of them are material. Yeah, so yoga, vastu, Ayurveda, personality types, leadership principles, astronomy, history, geography, art, music, geology, astrology, causal morality, linguistic, mathematics, architecture, environment protection, military science, quantum physics, so many other subject matters. They're all available somewhere on this. So a lot of times people may say, oh, the Vedic literatures are just books of God. But that's not true, because quantum physics, we use that in modern science, geography or history. So a lot of times we have to, like, not necessarily, I mean, all of you, none of you have said that this is well, some of you said that it's a Hindu scripture, but even there, you recognize that there's so many other things that are in there. But actually, as was mentioned, the Vedic literature, this body of knowledge is available for everyone. Because mathematics, every country, every religion, nobody's going to say, oh, I'm a Muslim, therefore I don't study mathematics. Nobody says that I belong to England, therefore I don't need to study history. In school, we study all these things. And all of this, you find a basis in the Vedic literature somewhere. And it's very... Yes. So something like leadership principles you find very heavily in the Mahabharata. because like, especially if you look at the way kingdoms were run in Mahabharata and Ramayana as well. And so what was the other one? Personality types. I actually don't know which, to be honest. I can find out. Interesting. Ramayana, yeah. But I think there's also one of the Shrutis that also has it. Gita, yeah, that's true. Gita's there. But actually, when you look through all the Vedic literature, you find that 98% of them talk about material science. Around 98%, that's kind of what people kind of go for. The idea is that the majority of the literatures talk about material science. Now that's baffling, right? Because Vedic literature, Hindu book, or book on God, or literatures on God, how is 98% talking about how to live in this world? All these different subject matters that we kind of went through and more.
Maybe only those areas were of interest over centuries and centuries, and they got more light.
Okay.
Vedas were essentially about many other things. But as humans here, this happens to be a very relevant topic for us.
Yeah.
For you.
It's a nice point, and I'll come to that later.
Yes, essentially, it's human nature is to explore worlds in which you live, to understand. So majority of the time we have spent is trying to know the world.
Yeah. So I'm just going to touch on it here. But you look at these levels of consciousness, we all grow through these. Imagine a baby. A baby's only going to care about milk and sleep, right? But as they grow older, then they start caring about, okay, I need to eat and stuff. As they grow older even more, then they want friends to play with. Like this, you go through life. And in the same way, when we consider the Vedic literature, most of us fall in like these 4 categories. So it's very natural for the Vedic literature to go, what's relevant for you? I'm going to help you where you are. When you consider schools, right? You have like year 1, year 2, year 3, so all the way up until like year 13 or something, right? Now, why don't they teach year 13 stuff to year 1s? Because they won't get it. It's not relevant to them for where they're at. But as you progress through life, as you go through the years in school, then you get to year 13. And then that subject matter is important to you. And so like this, you can see that what the Vedic literature is trying to do is invite us to come to the Vedic literature for any knowledge that we want in life. Because then you build credibility with the Vedic literature. You know, many of us will probably have favorite brands that we go to because we know we can rely on that brand. Whatever brand that is, you know, clothes, it could be, you know, telephones or whatever it is. Because we rely on that brand because we have experience of it. Or other people around us have had experience. And so we trust them. So in the same way, you can see that this 98% is relevant for us, which is why there's so much, but it also helps build the credibility that actually, when I come to this Anandamaya stage where I want to start inquiring about my relationship with God, I know where to go, even though it's only 2%. And so when you look at that, you see that that 2% is telling us to go beyond all of our concepts of the material life. It's telling us to go deeper in our own relationship with spirituality. And ultimately, it tells us to go to Krishna. There's a famous sage, Parashara Muni, although famous, I guess, amongst those who know the Vedic literature. And so Parashara Muni, for those who are interested, is basically I don't know if biological is technically the correct way to say it, but the father of Vyasadeva. Yeah. And what he had done is that, Hare Krishna, what he had done is basically gone through what success means, this idea of opulence, right? What people find as, if I've achieved this, I find myself successful. And broken them down into 6 categories. What are these categories? Ishvarya, wealth. So you find similarities between the Panchakosh as well. Virya, vitality. Now, Those who know Hindi or Sanskrit, you know Vira technically means strength. But strength isn't just physical strength, it's also about bodily strength, it's like health, etc. as well. So we're calling it vitality. Then you've got Yasha, fame. Shri, beauty. And again, that's not just bodily beauty, but it could be other types of beauty, like craftsmanship or arts, you know. Then you've got Jnana, knowledge. And then you've also got something called Viragya, which is detachment. Now, you see, you've got all these five, which generally fit very nicely with the other Panchakosha that we discussed. And generally, when you look at most of the world, you see they're either after wealth, vitality, fame, beauty, knowledge. Most of the world. But what Parashara Muni, what the scriptures, what the Vedic literature teach us is that you can have complete success in all these five, but you will still be incomplete. Because the scriptures describe that these five things pertaining to the material world are actually chapala sukha. It's flickering and temporary happiness. Think about the Tesla car that you buy. Think about the four-bed house. Houses are the best example, actually. You buy a massive house. It's like, yes, you know, invite all my friends over, invite the family over, show off my house. And then next day, the boiler is leaking. Something's broken. The shed is broken. The shed roof is broken and we need a new shed. The kitchen tap has stopped working. The bills just come and it's like, how did we get such an expensive bill when we haven't turned anything on? And then you realize that the kids were playing games all night. Source of anxiety. You buy a car. I remember this because I had this experience for myself many years ago. Bought a brand new car. And it's like, okay, I'm looking after it every day. I'm looking outside the window, making sure it's okay. Nobody scratched it. There's no bird who's dropped their poo on it. Every week I would clean the car because it's like, you know, it's a brand new car. I want to make it look good. And then I didn't do this, but my sister did with my car. It's like whenever everybody's coming into the car, it's like, you've got to clean your shoes before you enter the car. You know, don't want to get the car dirty. So much anxiety comes with it. It's like we run after something which we find as success in this world. It gives us so much anxiety in return. And that's why Viragya, detachment, is one thing that the scriptures and Parashara Muni defines as a category of success. Because we can have all the opulence, we can have all these five opulences, and that's okay. We can still classify ourselves as being successful in wealth, in vitality, in fame, in beauty, in knowledge. But if we want real success, we should also have the success in detachment. Yes, there's all these things going on, but that's okay. That's part of material life, and I'm not bothered by it. And that's difficult. That is difficult. One other thing, actually, just to mention, Parashara Muni created this analysis based on the word Bhagavan, right? So Bhagavan, as many people will know, is God. Yeah, is a term for God, or the personality behind God. Yeah. And he says that one who is complete in all these six can be called Bhagavan. So when you think of Krishna, for those who know Krishna, or about Krishna rather, then you see he has all the wealth. He has all the vitality, he has all the health, he has all the fame, all the beauty, all the knowledge, and he also has all the detachment. And maybe we can speak afterwards about how that applies if anybody's interested. So one might be thinking like, okay, if I can have these five things, and to me that's success, but Krishna is saying, or Parashara Muni is saying that that's not actually real success because you need the sixth thing, then why are so many of Vedic literatures focusing on these five things? Like, okay, I get it, like we spoke about, that most of us are not at the stage where we're just after God, but why can't all these things take us to viragya, to detachment? Well, we can describe it like an airport. When we think of an airport, who goes to an airport because you like the airport? Who goes to the airport because you like the duty-free shops? All right. You go to the airport because you want to take the flight. But at the airport, you've got all these shops, you've got all these things. Why? Because you have to spend 1, 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes at the airport. And if you don't have something to do, if you don't have things around you to look at, to like go and, everybody loves shopping. Okay. Most people love shopping. So it gives them something to do. So that's kind of the way you can describe the Vedic literature. The point of the Vedic literature is to take the flight to Krishna. But along the way, he's given us so many shops, so many things to do through the Vedic literature. So we at least come to the airport and are ready to then take the flight. You've got 3 types of people at the airport, right? You've got one of those who comes to the airport and they're like, okay, I just need to go get onto the flight. So I'm just going to go straight past everything, straight past customs, straight past all the shops, go get ready, sit down by, the departure lounge, whatever it is called. And they're just there resting and ready to go, Doesn't matter if it's 45 minutes, 1 hour. They're just ready, they rest, whatever. Then you've got those who are like, okay, I'm here. Let me just roam around the shops for a bit. Let me just do something or another. And then, oh, it's time to go. Okay, let's go. And then you do get these people who go to the airport, who go around the shops and just get lost in the shops, and they forget that they've got a flight to catch. I saw somebody like that the last time I went to the airport. And then they were at the information desk trying to find the next flight and everything else. So if we come to the airport, we focus on the success of this world, but then we don't take the flight to Krishna. We don't focus on that sixth success of detachment and developing our relationship with Krishna. Then we may well end up just staying in the shops and not getting the flight to our destination. So, a question, what time is it? Okay. So, the question for you guys, what would you define as your recipe for success? How would you, whether it's material or spiritual, whether it's related to Krishna, whether it's related to the wealth or the viragya or the detachment, what sort of things do you need in place, or do you think you need in place to achieve success? Perseverance. Would you like to elaborate?
So I got married late in life and I had a child even later. So it's something that I've had to think about well on, persevere that I've won this in life. Okay, because early on in my 20s and 30s, I'm like, oh my God, kids are annoying, they shout, they cry, they do and everything. But there comes a point in your life when you think, okay, I've got all success in life, now what? Who am I supposed to pass this down to? And what am I doing living in such a big house on my own? And then obviously the two that comes on like, okay, let's get married, let's get this a goal. Relationships, like we talked about in 5 steps of physiological need. And then came a point of, in my life when I said, if I don't have a child, I'm going to miss out on something. And I have to give it a go. Okay. And then you go to the GP and say, oh, chances are very, very slim age. Nothing's really going to work out. But then when you have that thought in your mind, okay, and you put your efforts into it and you persevere it, I've got to get this done. And there are ways to do it. And if you have the faith and belief that this is going to happen, it is going to work out for you. Right? So I've had doctors telling me this is not going to work for you, given that it's happened in the past and what your health conditions are like. But I've put my 200% into it. I have a toddler. I had him at the age 43, 3 years old, as the joy of my life. And I think I wanted that in my life. I realized that very, very late in my life. When I met my husband, I said, you know what? Kids are a question. Now what? He's like, okay.
I'm 45, you're 39, and we're married and 3 bedrooms. So when you want something in life and you get after it, I believe, and I honestly believe there's somebody watching out for me up there. And if I put my mind to it and my heart and soul to it, it will happen. This is the biggest example in my life.
Okay.
And there have been other things as well, but perseverance is my recipe for success, whether it's in corporate life, personal life, and family.
No, thank you for sharing such a intimate and deep found own realization of
Oh, yes.
perseverance and success.
Intense long experience is far greater than natural talent.
Okay. Perseverance is greater than natural talent. You need a goal. So you need to know what you're actually trying to be successful in. True, right? Like in your case, sorry, what's your name?
Ruchi.
Ruchi. So in Ruchi's case, her goal was to actually have a child. What else?
You can get a success when you use the right ingredients in your life.
But what are those ingredients?
That's why we are here looking for them.
Okay, good answer. Yes.
I think it's success that life is a series of experiences and opportunities. And you have to take that in the spirit, to go through that experience and know the life, experience the life. And whatever life offers you, you become grateful for that.
So if I summarize that as an ingredient of success, it's experience.
That is
Experience in
one
life.
of the-
One of the ingredients. Okay.
I would
And
say
yes?
hard work.
Hard work. Okay, so similar to perseverance in one sense. Yeah. Love.
Focus.
Okay. Please elaborate. How love? That's an interesting one.
I've got it similar, it's not finished, but I just think I've got 2 young children and I'm very task focused by nature and very much about goals and getting to the next thing, But when I stop and pause and actually just take in the child and deeply connect with this, that I connection and love, I think sometimes the success just comes. And I think that in the workplace too, if you really, connect with the individual and care about them. It's about the leadership thing as well. I really believe that if you're a good leader who often is successful, in terms of money, whatever it's, they're good people they show up.
So that relationship oriented. Okay. Yeah. Any others? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Something that you got from the what people think.
So you need a structure, you need a process on how you're going to be, like a step-by-step plan.
Right.
Okay.
Success wise, if you look at material success, then people are of the wealth and health and all the things they need, greed and lust and money. But if you really want to detach from material life, and then when you detach, then it is the spiritual life. That's where the main success is. The ultimate goal is God.
Okay, so going through the successes of this world to then realize that there's a higher success later. So I guess if I flip it round, it's finding failure in the successes of today. Is that?
No, I mean, normally people are more attached to the material stuff. But when you detach from it, because all this thing is temporary, like you got the car, it's temporary, you got the house, it's temporary. Finally, you're going to leave everything when you go. So main success you will get when you detach from all these material things and think of spiritual life, then you get more success.
But what's the ingredient there? How would you become successful in detachment?
You just give up on anger, greed, and things.
Okay, so give up the lust, anger, greed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then while you're alive, you need good health, you need home, you need shelter. But if people, I don't know, like I wouldn't deny, not against you, but I wouldn't say I'm greedy, but at the same time, I need to be comfortably pay my bills. So if I deny that, that means I'm lying. We all work hard. Everyone's running on the train. People have financial commitments. I don't have a dream to own a Tesla, but at the same time, I want to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And it's satisfactory in both.
Also teaches us.
Satisfaction.
That's content.
Yeah. Once you have something is comfortable for you,
Yeah.
then you don't have to sort of go about. Now I want more.
Of course, 100%.
Yeah, so this idea of being content with what you've got, and not rushing after even more, even more, even more. Yes?
Being open to the experiences of life, it teaches us how to let it go in a majestic way.
Okay.
You can actually go through it. Put it that way, this is a scientific approach of going through the process of focusing on something, seeing it happening, and then seeing it disappearing. And you go through that process of letting it go.
Hmm.
No,
In
we
my
can't do it.
perception, there is no real recipe for success. I think it's what you found. So you are a solutions architect, right? So if you imagine a product you are trying to build, right? It's an iterative process. You are literally defining and trying to find your customers' needs and trying to build something that you are actually meeting towards your target, right? So I really don't think if I try and apply that logic, seeing what success means is effectively pretty identical, right?
Okay.
It's just perception, that what you want success to be for yourself at any given point in time, right? So it's like an OKR.
Yes, remember we're talking about ingredients for success. Yes? Determination. Okay. Hmm.
Like, if I learn things of inspiration, you just carry on with that national hope.
Yeah, so commitment. Yeah, so remember, if just pulling it back, right? We're talking about ingredients for success. Like you've defined a goal, as somebody had mentioned, right? In order, one of the ingredients is to have a goal. What is it that you want to be successful in? But what do you need in place as ingredients to help you achieve that success? So we have determination, perseverance, consistency, hard work, passion. Yeah.
You need to have that aggression inside you every day, even whether you are being a failure one day or successful one day, but waking up, you need to have that passion inside, that intense love for something. Only then you will pursue it for really, really long time.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're not, you can be passionate for a car, and that is the passion. If you achieve that, if you buy that car, you are, I would feel successful.
Right. Yeah. This
passionate.
passion. Yeah. Yeah.
There's something in that car which I really like. So
yeah.
If we're not for passion, then I don't think.
Yeah, you wouldn't. If you weren't passionate about anything, then you wouldn't strive for anything. If you didn't have a passion for something, you wouldn't strive for it. So yeah.
Just basically saying, you see, with this big success, what's going on underneath it's what we were thinking about hard work.
Yeah, exactly.
Resilience. Actually, we said that.
Exactly. Yeah, no, thank you. I think there was somebody else around this side from mine. A guru. Interesting. So, who agrees with that?
Spiritually, yes.
Just spiritually?
I would like, that's why I'm here actually. I just want somewhere where I can, just
That's nice.
So, what's the word I'm looking for? Self-reflection and gather my thoughts around and, we live in a very busy and very fast-moving world. Just take a step back.
Yeah, it's interesting because materially we need gurus. We need teachers materially to help us grow and learn. We need mentors, as somebody said. In the workplace, we'll have mentors, we'll have teachers, we'll have those who are senior than us helping us grow in our career. But when it comes to spiritual life, a lot of people think, I can do it myself. I don't need anybody. I can just study in books. I'll learn Sanskrit. I'll study books myself. But if in material life, we need a teacher to help us grow, then why would the same not be true in spiritual life? If anything, when you go to the 98 and 2%, you see that you need somebody who really knows the 2%, whereas 98% you can find, many, many people. So yes, no, thank you for bringing that up, Guru. Any others?
This whole, the term success actually implies more about the material world.
Okay.
So it's, in a way, it's kind of focusing on only everything about outside, not about inside. So I think the term here, I think, is about knowing the life. It's more, the Vairagya is all about knowing the life. And everything else just disappears, just a flood. It will just disappear. Everything is temporary.
Everything is temporary. So there's three ways people learn, right? It's categorized. Again, Vedic literature categorizes the way people learn. There's those who learn by hearing or by reading. You know, you read something in the paper or in the Vedic literature and you're like, okay, if I do this, then this bad thing could happen, right? And then second type of learners are those who learn by seeing. You see somebody else go through something and they're like, okay, how did they get there? Because they did this, this, this. And then if I do the same thing, then the chances are I'll be in the same situation. And the third type of learner are those who learn by experiencing. They have to go through it themselves to learn. Classic example, right? We've got some parents here. Maybe you have a fan at home. Or if you go to India, you definitely have fans. You've got a son, a daughter, whatever, you know, a young child. What do they want to do when the fan is on?
Put the finger in.
Put the finger in. And what do? Don't do it, it will hurt you. What do they do?
Still do it.
Still do it. So what do? You put your finger in to show them, ow, it hurts. What do? They still do it. So then how do you teach them?
Put their finger in.
You put them finger in such a way that it doesn't hurt them. It just pricks them, right? Like you do that, right? Like anything in life, not just kids, but even adults. We adults go through the same thing. But imagine if that kid was smart, had knowledge, had an understanding of life. They'd learn as soon as the parents, the authority says, if I put my finger into the fan, it will hurt me. They'll go, okay, I'm not going to do it. Or at least if they were second-class learners, they'd go, okay, I'm doing it, but they're telling me not to do it. I don't get why, I'm still going to do it. But now I see them getting hurt, so I'm not going to do it. And so experience is a very important part for us to learn, because experience, when we learn by experience, it's telling us that actually, and you can reflect on any experiences that you've had, you see that there's other people around you who have been through the same situation, but you've not learned from it. Or you would have heard it or read it somewhere, but you've not learned from it. And again, when we go to the Vedic literature, like Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Puran, or the Srimad Bhagavatam, you find so many examples that are given for different things in our life, material and spiritual. And then you see that those who are first-class learners will read these things, reflect, introspect, and then go like, okay, I know what I need to do, and they'll follow it. But then others will see, read it, that's make-believe, the Vedas are just make-believe, it doesn't exist, it's not true. Then they see something happen in the world, and then join the dots. Oh, the literature's actually said this, and this person's going through this. And therefore, I know not to do that myself now. But then the third class is that you might have the Vedic literatures accessible to you. The Bhagavad Gita is right there in your home, accumulating dust. You don't turn to them. And even if you do, maybe you've come to the Veda class and we said something, maybe you're one of those people who's putting the finger in the fan. But you still don't learn. You're seeing other people do it. They're like, that won't happen to me. I'm different. I'm made different. Then the same thing will happen eventually, either today or tomorrow. That's why there's three types of learners. Those who are more intelligent will learn by what they read, what they hear. Those who are less intelligent will learn by seeing other people go through things. And those who are even less intelligent, they learn through their experience. We don't need experience to learn. Like, how many of you have experienced, trying to find a better example. How many of you experienced matter going through the wall? Like a small object going through the wall? Well, quantum physics says that's possible. You take quantum physics, you say, okay, this scientist has done this research, I'm going to accept it as the truth, and go like, okay, it's possible for tiny, tiny particles to go through the wall. X-ray, good example. You've got light particles going through, but then they get blocked by the bones. What are X-rays? They're just a frequency of light. They can go through the skin, they can go through the blood, the muscles, but then they get blocked by the bone. We need to experience that. We can take the research that others have done and learn from it and accept that as truth. In the same way, when we look at the Vedic literature, or the different, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we can take those principles, we can take the teachings from there and apply it into our life because we can trust the authority. And then we don't have to go through the experience. So back to recipes. We'll go through three, there's like many of you have come up with many different things, determination, etc., etc. But what we'd like to do is go through three ingredients of success that Arjuna went through. Does everybody know who Arjuna is? Yeah? No? Okay. So actually, if you don't mind, if you feel comfortable, please do put your hand up if you don't know who Arjuna is. Okay, couple. Okay. So here you've got Krishna, who you would have seen on the altar. And then you've got Arjuna, who is a very dear friend and a warrior. Yeah. So Arjuna is basically, I guess for intents and purposes for right now, is a very great devotee, a very great believer, and he had firm faith in Krishna and his ability to say the truth. And when you look at Arjuna's life, from childhood up until the war, he gives there are three different examples that we can see, like with focus, emotion, intelligence, association, three ingredients that created his success. These aren't the only ingredients. He did have many other things, but obviously we can go through everything, but time is of essence also. But we just picked out three. But we can talk more about Arjuna if we need to at the end. I'm more than happy to do that. So the first one, focus. Does anybody know, for those who do know, like the story of Mahabharata, what this sort of picture is about? The eye. Yes. I've been speaking a lot, so would anybody like to narrate the pastor? Okay, so that's fine. So this one is Arjuna when he's very young aged. And he's termed as one of the Pandavas. The Pandava is basically Pandava was his father, and the children of Pandu are called Pandavas, and Arjuna was one of 5. And this here is his spiritual master, his guru, Dronacharya, right? So his guru, basically in those days, what would happen is that the children would go to an ashram to study material science, spiritual science, everything, under the shelter of a guru who was an expert in those arts. And one such thing that Dronacharya was expert in was archery as well, art of war as well. So he was teaching all of the Pandavas, but also the Kauravas. Kauravas were basically cousins of the Pandavas. So Arjuna, his brothers, and then his cousins were all under the shelter of Dronacharya. And they were learning how to basically shoot arrows. One day, Dronacharya decided that I'm going to have a test. I want to see how much they've progressed, right? Progress-based achievement. Success. One of the successes that you're making progress. So what he did was, in a faraway tree, he put a wooden bird. A wooden bird, like you can see here, with just standard wooden bird. And one by one, he asked each of his students, the Kauravas, Pandavas, and others, to come up to a specific spot. If any of you have been archery before, you've got like a line that you basically stand by. Usually, sometimes there's a spot as well, and then you shoot at the target. So he basically got them one by one to stand on the spot, take aim, and then just before they release the arrow, he asked them, what do you see? Just picture it in your head. Picture that you're one of those people, one of those students. What would you say you see? You know, remember talking about like in the middle of a forest, mountains in the distance, you've got a massive tree in the distance, and then you've got this small wooden bird, and he's asked you to basically aim your arrow at the eye of the bird and shoot. What would you say? What do you see?
Trees, leaves,
You see the trees, the leaves,
clouds.
clouds. Okay, anybody else? You see the eye. I know you know the story. Anybody see anything else?
But if your focus is just on what to do, you're only going to look at the eye. You won't look at the
Exactly.
lens. But I don't know the story. I'm just using my little brain that I
Okay, no, it's a good introspection. Yeah.
It was part of education, you know, young, you know, something like that.
Oh, you learned?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're helping me out by giving all the other examples. So one by one, he asked them to come up, right? He asked Duryodhan, who's one of the cousins, Yudhishthira, who's one of the brothers, and all these personalities. And he asked them, what do you see? One person says, I see the mountains, I see the tree. He's like, okay, come away from the mark. Ask the next person, I see the bird, I see the feathers of the bird. Okay, step away. Like this, going through each of the personalities, each of the students. And then he asks Arjuna, you come up, take aim. What do you see? I see the eye of the bird. Okay, but what else do you see? You know, I mean, tiny little dot in your vision. Surely you see other things. No, I just see the eye of the bird. You don't see the bird, you don't see the tree. No, I just see the eye of the bird. Because, as you were mentioning, the idea is that he had so much focus on the target that he couldn't see anything else. He wasn't distracted by the bird because the target wasn't the bird, it was the bird's eye. He wasn't distracted by the tree. He wasn't distracted by the mountains in the distance. He was focused on the eye of the bird. And so like this, what we can learn here, one of the things is that this is from the Bhagavad Gita. O descendants of the Kurus, the intellect of those who are on this path is resolute and the aim is one-pointed. But the intellect of those who are irresolute is many-branched. This idea that if we have multi-branched thought processes, if we're not focused, if we don't have vivasaya tukabuddhi, it's called, this one-pointed focus, then there'll be so many things going on in our life. We'll be focusing on so many different things, but then we miss the point. We miss the aim. We miss the goal.
Yeah. It's something else also, the focus is the energy flow. But when the energy flows there, why does the energy become so anxious? And the focus is still there, but the goal seems so distant because your energy becomes so anxious. How do you deal with that?
So you're talking about how like the energy doesn't stay with the focus.
It stays with the focus, but it becomes so anxious that you feel that your goal is actually going further away. Why? Interesting.
So you feel like you're making progress, but then you feel like you're not making progress. But isn't that part of life? So there's a quadrants. Maybe you'd know this. I don't remember what it's called, but there are 4 quadrants basically where your knowledge of the world goes through them. So first, you're ignorant about everything. You're ignorant about what you know and what you don't know and everything around you. But then as you grow, I don't know do you know the quadrants? I don't remember them in order. So then you're ignorant about what you don't know, but you know what you know. So anyway, the point is that as we grow through, when we have that goal in mind, as we're trying to achieve it, we have the goal and we're thinking, okay, just here. It's an arm's length away. But along the journey, you find that there's so many other things that you didn't know existed on the path that now you have to deal with. And so even though it's still only arm's length away, because you have to overcome all these things, it seems like it's so much more further. This idea that actually, if you drew a straight line from the manor to central London, it'd probably be like 15, 20 minutes. You know, if you were able to just go straight to central London. It takes us like an hour. Why? Because we have to go around windy roads. Even the train doesn't go straight, it goes round. And then it stops on the train. So we think we're just going down a straight line, but actually reality is that we have to take the curves that go to help us with the journey. And a prime example of that are airplanes. When you're sitting in an airplane, you put on the monitor and it says, okay, we've got this flight path, you know, they just have a flight path like this. But how much of the time that you're actually flying does the plane follow that flight path? Very little. Sometimes it's on this side, sometimes it's on that side. But the whole point is that what the pilot is always trying to do is calibrate the plane with the flight path. So if you have a goal in mind, if you have a success factor in mind, you know where you want to go, you know the destination. You have chalked out a path that you want to take. But along the path, you won't always be on the path. Sometimes this will come up, that will come up. But the whole point is that you always want to align as much as you can with the flight path. Naturally, when you're going this side, that side, it takes more time. It makes it seem like it's further away. And what is that destination we'll come to later on? So yeah, this idea of focus. So how can we avoid distractions? Because if you want focus, you need to avoid distractions, right? Any thoughts?
Avoidance is about acknowledgement and this knowing there will be distractions always. That's the thing. Realizing that.
Okay. So there's some distractions that we can completely avoid. You know, those things that are not necessary. We know they're not necessary. They don't help us in any way. They're not relevant to us. But sometimes we just get engaged in them just because why not? We can, if we're really focused, we can eliminate them. But then there's other things that might distract us on whatever path we have, whatever success factor we have, that we acknowledge they're there and try to minimize the impact they have on us.
And avoid where we have got control. And if somebody else
Where we have control.
I'm not doing.
Yeah,
I'm coming here, within next time on motorway, I'll get too late. Okay, I said I have trouble.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do that. Otherwise, I'll concentrate.
Yeah.
Something which is in our hand in our life.
so sometimes things come up that we have to deal with. We acknowledge, we go through them. We're taking a slight detour on the flight path, but we know that's not the thing that we're focused on. Our focus is to come back. So we can eliminate distractions that aren't really providing anything in our life, minimize distractions that we have because of the life we have, maybe like the kids or whatever, you know, maybe our goal is now different. But then we have kids to look after, we have family to look after, we have a job, we have a house. We deal with all of those, but we don't get so immersed in them because we know what our focus is, we know what our goal is. So we reduce how much impact that has on us. So that's one, focus. Second thing interesting is emotional intelligence. So the story of the Bhagavad Gita in a very snap, right? There's a war that's happening between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Remember, they're cousins. And moments before the war is about to begin, Arjuna is thinking, I want to see who I'm actually fighting with, like who actually turned up to fight. And so he asks Krishna, who's actually the chariot driver, take me into the middle of the war. Let me see who is on the opposite side. And so once he's seen with his material vision that there's people on the opposite side of the army, he now comes to the middle and starts seeing with his emotional vision. This is my friend. This is my guru. Dronacharya is fighting against them. Bhishma Dev is fighting against them. Bhishma Dev is their grandfather. All these great personalities, friends, well-wishers, are all fighting against Arjuna. And Arjuna is thinking, I can't kill them. I mean, would you kill your cousin? No matter how bad they were, they tried to kill you when you were a kid, would you kill them? No. So Arjuna's thinking this, like, how can I kill them? But instead of taking his decisions himself, he goes to Krishna He says, Kalpanya dosho pahata svabhava prichami tvam dharma samudacheta yachayas yaschaya chanishtitam bruhitan me shishyastaham shadi mam tvam prapannam. He says, now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrender unto you. Please instruct me. He goes to Krishna because he recognizes that he's got all this emotional buildup now. It's like, I've got my family, my friends on the other side. If I kill them, then all the great warriors will die. And what does that mean? That means that all the plunderers, all the ill people who want to damage the world, they become more prominent. I can't do this. I can't fight this war. But to deal with his emotional intelligence, he goes to Krishna because he says, I need help. I can't deal with this using my own intelligence because I'm overwhelmed by the situation. Oftentimes we find ourselves in that situation, you know, like you were mentioning, like it feels so far away. We're like chasing after a success, but it feels so far away. We're like struggling along the journey because so many obstacles, hurdles are coming up. And we might become overwhelmed. We might have the same question. Should I do this or should I stop? But we can learn from Arjuna and go to somebody who can actually help us. We can confide, we can ask for support from somebody. It's described, somebody who knows us, who loves us, and who can actually help us. Somebody who knows us because they need to know our situation. They need to know all the different things that are turning in our life. They need to love us because they need to have the best interest for us in mind, right? If we go to somebody and they're actually, you know, secretly plotting against us, well, chances are whatever they suggest is going to be in their favor, not yours. But then somebody who knows how to help us. Material world, sorry? Interesting point. Detach from us in the situation, yes, because otherwise their emotions will come into play as well, right? But generally, when we talk about somebody who can help us, we often talk about somebody who's spiritually more elevated than us because they have a better understanding of how to navigate life and life's challenges. So somebody who's more spiritually wise, you know, that's why you see, like, we were talking about guru, somebody who can actually help us on the journey. In workplace, in the career workplace, we go to a mentor because we know they're senior than us, they can actually help us, or a coach because they can help us in that field. I think that was somebody else with the hand up, sorry. I remember. Okay. So that's emotional intelligence. So this idea that if we want to go for success, we need focus because we need to, you know, be disciplined on what we want to strive for. And then emotional intelligence because along the path, so many things will come up, but we need the help. We need the support system, the network in place so that we can go through those challenges and get to the other end. And the last thing that we talk about is association. Really bad picture, sorry for that. But this is basically a burning building. It's actually a wax building. And these are basically the Pandavas who are coming out of a hole. Now, the background story is that Duryodhana, who is one of the cousins of Arjuna, was so envious of the Pandavas that he wanted at every opportunity to kill and get rid of the Pandavas. And one of the things he schemed is that, okay, let's burn them alive. So he had asked somebody to go and create a building made of wax. Why wax? Because, I mean, those who light candles know that wax is very good for fire. And what Duryodhana then did is that he encouraged the Pandavas to go like, you know, oh, there's so many festivals going on in this place. I forget what place it's called. Yeah, so do you know the town?
I think the building was called Lakshagriha.
Yeah, Lakshagriha, but there's a town which, Varnavata. So there's a town which is where he had created this. There's so many festivities going on there. It was like, you guys go, we need royal representation. Sometimes you see Prince William's going here, Prince Charles, Charlie going here, there. When the Queen was around, she would go everywhere as well. We need royal representation in different places. So why don't you guys go, and I'll set everything up. You'll stay in this nice house, but you just go there, spend some time there, enjoy the festivities, help out with the festivities, just have some royal presence. So somehow Duryodhana encouraged and inspired the Pandavas to actually agree to go. But Vidura, who isn't here, Vidura is the uncle of the Pandavas and Kauravas, and a minister in the kingdom as well. So Vidura knew what was going on. Vidura knew that Duryodhana was planning to kill the Pandavas. And because Vidura and the Pandavas were very close, they had very good association with each other. Vidura had told them, or he told Yudhishthira specifically, the eldest brother, that if you guys go here, Duryodhana's planning to kill you by getting you to stay in a wax building and then burn it. But the Pandavas still went because they didn't want to create a scene. They were like, one, what if this isn't true? And number two, if we don't go, then Duryodhana will suspect something is up. Like, they agreed to go. Why didn't they go now? So they'd gone, and Vidura said that, you don't worry. I'll send an expert miner, somebody who can dig holes, standard mining. And we'll make sure that you guys are safe, and he'll help you get out of there. So the Pandavas went. They spent many, many days there, and whilst they were spending the days hunting outside, the miner would come and dig the hole. And then once the hole was ready, the stage was set. The Pandavas was like, okay, now we can let our guard down. The house was burnt, and they had a tunnel to escape from. And in Duryodhana's eyes, they had actually died. They got burnt. But the Pandavas got saved because they had association of Vidura, somebody who was a well-wisher, like I was talking about, somebody who knew what was going on, and who was wise enough to be able to help. So association, at the end of the day, how do we build association, right? How do we build those relationships with people?
By being nice, kind.
Right? Helpful, nice, kind, helpful, decent human beings, developing a relationship with them, doing things, whatever a relationship means. In the scriptures, is described as 6 things or 3 categories: giving, receiving gifts, exchanging food. Us Indians kind of know about that a lot. And the 3rd thing is sharing things, right? Revealing our mind, sharing what's going on in our life and sharing what's going on in their life. And when we do this with somebody who's spiritually elevated, somebody who's senior to us, who can actually help us, it's described in the literature, even half a moment's association with pure devotees, somebody who's spiritually elevated, within this world of birth and death, is a priceless treasure for any man. Because now you have their support, their guidance to help you in life. Sorry? Samagam. Sadhu Sangha. Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is association of those who are saints, saintly personalities. But when you see Arjuna's life, he had focus, he had emotional intelligence, he had the right association. But one thing that was consistent throughout his life was he always chose Krishna above everything else. Many of you are here today because you're like, I want somebody to help me in my spiritual life. I need a guide, I need support. I want to learn more about my spiritual life. I'm coming to this stage of Vairagya where it's like, I've got all of this opulence, and that's okay. But I need to not be attached to the opulence, otherwise the opulence will just eat me alive with all the distractions, with all the anxieties that come with it. And this is a very famous story. Let me just check on time. Okay, we're good for time. A very famous pastime. So here you see Krishna in the middle, and then you've got Arjuna here, and then you've got Duryodhana. So this is some time before the war, before the Kurukshetra war that actually took place. And it was already declared that we're going to have a war. And as part of the war, the Pandavas and Kauravas, who were heading the two different opposing armies, they were basically going around different kingdoms trying to get support from other ministers, from other kings to support them. And Krishna was the king of Dwarka. His army is said to be, it's described that his army alone could have defeated all the personalities on the battlefield. That's how strong his army was. And Krishna himself, being God, being Bhagwan, he alone could do the exact same thing. So if you get his support, you're basically guaranteed victory, right? Because you've got the strongest personality that can wipe the whole army, the whole battlefield. And if he doesn't fight, you've got his army to do the same thing. So Arjun and Duryodhana both recognized this. And they were like, okay, let's go to Krishna. Arjuna had come and he was standing at the feet of Krishna. Duryodhana had come and he stood at the head of Krishna. And at that point of time, Krishna was actually lying down sleeping. So Duryodhana was thinking that, okay, his face is pointing this way. As soon as he looks up, opens his eyes, I'll be right next to him. So he turned around and just look at me. You know, I'm right there next to him. So, you know, he'll be like, I came first. That's why I'm at the head. That's why I'm so close. And Arjuna, on the other hand, was just by the feet because he recognized that actually you can't be equal to a saintly personality. You have to be in a submissive mood. And so when Krishna woke up, he saw that Arjuna was at his feet. And he was the first person that he saw. So Krishna asks Arjuna, like, okay, I understand why you're here. And then he sees Duryodhana. Duryodhana's like, no, I came first. I'm right here. Like, you should, help me first. So Krishna's like, look, I know the predicament you guys are in, but Arjun, you're my cousin. Duryodhana, you're also my cousin. How can I choose my cousin that I'm going to fight with? So I've decided I'm not going to fight. I will give my army to one of you, and I'll give myself to the other party, but I won't fight. So I'll be there to advise you, to support you, but I'm not going to fight. Now that's a done deal, right? Like you've got an army that is able to annihilate the whole battlefield, fighting on one side, and then Krishna, who's not even going to pick up any weapon on the other side. Like, what would you pick? Krishna, because you guys are devotees. I mean, somebody who's thinking about material life will be thinking, well, makes sense I take the army because they'll actually do something on the battlefield. What's Krishna going to do? Nothing. He's just going to speak all day. And then at the end of the day, when you come home, when they come back into the camp, Krishna will be like, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, why were you there? You should have hit this hours like this. You know, like the bosses at work. So here, Krishna asked, what do you guys want? And Duryodhana was set. He was like, I want the army. And Arjun was set, I want Krishna. Duryodhana's laughing, like, what a fool are you, Arjun? Like, Krishna, did you not hear? Like, are you deaf? Krishna just said he's not going to fight, and you want Krishna over his army. Let me tell you, his army can actually annihilate the entire world, and you're saying you don't want the army, you just want Krishna? But Arjun had made his mind up. He was like, I want Krishna. And it's described that, I mean, those who know the story, you know how pivotal Krishna was to the victory of the Pandavas. Even though he didn't pick up any weapon apart from once, but he didn't do anything with it. Well, he kind of did, but he stopped something from happening. We'll talk afterwards. I don't want to spoil it for anybody else. But Krishna was pivotal to Arjun's success because it's described here at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. It's mentioned, wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, and to set the scene of the Bhagavad Gita, it's not just about Krishna and Arjuna speaking on the battlefield. Is Krishna and Arjuna speaking on the battlefield? as witnessed and heard by Sanjaya, who's outside the battlefield. And it is possible, even scientifically, there are cases where people do this. They use this. The US Army has used this. I keep forgetting what it's called. Does anybody know? Yes, something like that. But yeah, this ability to see something that's happening further away, like not within your visual peripheral. So Sanjaya was saying this verse to Dhritarashtra, who is Duryodhana's father, who was also not on the battlefield, and basically explaining that I've just heard this great conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, and I am convinced that where there is Krishna and where there is somebody like Arjuna who has complete faith in choosing Krishna over anything else, then all opulence, all victory, all power, all morality will be there. Duryodhana chose the army, he wanted the army, he got the army. But what's a kingdom of God without God? It's meaningless. Duryodhana wanted the kingdom of God without God, and Arjuna preferred to have God over God's kingdom. And ultimately, Arjuna is the one that gets glorified for being victorious and successful, predicted before the war actually concludes. So, all of this we're talking about with success. And one thing that we might be thinking of is, well, I came here because I had to. I didn't really want to be here. I mean, okay, I want spiritual life, but I want to focus on my material progression. I've got material goals in mind. So maybe you might be thinking after this session that spiritual life later, you know? I'll pick Krishna later. I'll focus on Krishna's kingdom right now. But there's this nice verse in the Bhagavatam that says, a person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. This idea that no matter where we're at in our spiritual life, no matter where we're at in our material life, maybe we've just come to this course just to see what it's like what is spiritual life about? And we might be thinking, maybe it's not so much for me because I'm not ready for it yet. But what the Bhagavatam says, what the scriptures say is that actually, it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter which kosha you're at. Give some time to your spiritual progression, because that will help you materially in the 5 successes and with the 6th success of detachment, and ultimately coming to Krishna. Yes.
Has anybody ever experienced a very conflicted trip to the temple? That tears in your eye? Is that
Very profound. Sorry, is that
an indication or an indicator towards something?
I mean,
Every time I come and I listen to the teacher, my tears just start. I don't know what that is.
that's nice. Spiritual atmosphere. That's where the association comes in. Like, there's multiple types of association. And one association you have is being in the association of spiritual energy, those who are practicing spiritual life. That's also a temple, right? And those who are coming more in touch with those higher levels of consciousness, they will feel this, because it's like, this is where you want to go. This is where your success is leading you. So without putting words in your mouth, maybe it's a calling. Yes.
You get success in the 5 things, also in the detachment. But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if I love someone especially, I think I will never be Praskara.
That's true. That's true. In the scriptures, it said that actually, this is a very, very controversial point that you've made me talk about now. He says that actually those who he has special mercy for, those who he specially wants back, he takes away everything, all the opulences we have. But in the Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned that actually there's 4 types of people that become interested in spirituality. Oh, you're testing me because I don't remember all 4 of them. Let's see if I do. So one who's actually desirous of wealth, so material success. One who's going through a difficulty. Are the other two? Seekers of knowledge, and then one who is seekers of knowledge, and one who has the wisdom of knowing who Krishna is. So when we think about this idea that, okay, Krishna is going to take everything away, and there are examples of that, but these personalities are so renounced already that there's just one small thing left to get rid of their attachment, that they're now ready, they're fully ready to give themselves to Krishna. And we may not be there yet. I know I'm not. But what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is that if you want any of these, even if you just want to know about me, practice your spiritual life, come and develop your spiritual life. And then as you learn about all these different successes, you also grow in your success of detachment. So then when Krishna, and if Krishna decides to then take everything away, then you know it's Krishna's hand to get you over that last hump that you need to get through. Very controversial point. No, thank you. It's an important point.
I think it's quite relevant.
Yeah, many of us get pushed. You know, like so much is going on. We're like, I just got to let go. Like somebody was saying, like, I think Matthew, you were saying, like, so much is going on, and it's like we just got to let go, but we don't do it. We want to hold on. We're like, just something will work out. You know, something will happen, and everything will be perfectly fine. But we know everything ends. In this world, everything is temporary. Everything ends, as probably you were mentioning also. We go through this cycle that ultimately, if we don't learn by reading it in the scriptures, if we don't learn by hearing it from the sadhus, if we don't learn by seeing other people losing their loved ones, losing their jobs, then ultimately we'll have to experience it ourselves. And at that point, you remember that pie chart and be like, oh, now I need to learn the success of detachment. Or you could learn it by coming here, attending the courses, reading the books, and go through them. Attending the kirtans.
I think the scriptures, it gives us a knowledge, right knowledge, to choose the right things and avoid the wrong things.
Hmm.
And there are things we can do wrong, and things in long term can go wrong. And it says, stay away from those things, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Even if we don't, reach to our ultimate goal, we don't see it slowly. But if you are in the right direction, go in the right direction, close to the goal, right thing, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Progress, not perfection.
An example of, say, honeybee, and there is a fly, another fly, normal malaria, mosquito, whatever. And the flies it on, something that really, on bad thing. And it is a similar fly, but in this honeybee, goes on the flower, sits there, and, extracts all the juice from there, makes, nectar, well, and that mud, is very sweet. So it's choosing, the both things are available. Wrong people choose wrong thing, right people choose right thing. The scriptures, they tell us what we choose.
Yeah.
Then we choose right thing.
Yeah. This idea that a honeybee will never go to any filthy place, and because it knows the nectar is in the flower. So always pick the flower over anything else. Whereas the flies will have no discretion. They'll go here, there, everywhere. You find them around the bins. Why? Because they're just trying to find whatever little taste there is in the tiniest of places.
That's the instant gratification, right?
Instant gratification. In Gita Life, which I can mention it briefly, starts in June if anybody's interested. Gita Life basically goes through the Bhagavad Gita. You know what? Let me just go there.
Both achieve, both the flies, they achieve their goal.
Yeah.
Goals, right?
Yeah. Really bad quality. Hopefully for next week I'll have a better quality poster. But starts on the 2nd of June. Gita Life basically goes through the Bhagavad Gita, an overview study of the 18 chapters of the Gita in 10 weeks with acronyms. And
Can I take
Yeah.
a picture of that?
If you go to the desk as well, you can basically sign up right there and then. But in Gita Life, when I ran it last time, one of the examples I like to give is of an animal on a farm. Like imagine a goat on a farm. What's a goat always doing? Just trying to find the next patch of grass to just enjoy. Every now and then the goat will put its head up and see that that goat in the distance is getting taken to the slaughterhouse. But it's like, it's not me, why do I care? Then it goes and finds the next patch of grass. Then it goes and puts his head up and go, oh, does that goat over there? I didn't like him anyway, because it came and stole my patch of grass at some point. And then the friends and family go. But at some point, there'll come a point of time where that goat will not put its head up. But when it does, it'll find itself in the slaughterhouse. And that's our situation. At some point, we'll end up in a situation where death is inevitable for all of us. But the intelligence says that we find out what is the way to get out of the farm. If a goat had that intelligence, then not many goats will be ending up in the slaughterhouse. So it's a very raw example. But yeah, through the Vedic literatures, through the teachings, we can pick what is right, what is wrong, what will actually help us in our journey of life. And if we have interest in the shops of the airport, that's okay. But don't forget, you need to take the flight. Yeah? Let's make sure we're walking towards the flight to take and not getting stuck at shop 1. And then, oh, I missed my flight. So going back, so I spoke about a few things. So understanding our true identity, the fact that the Vedic literature basically gives us gross, subtle, or gross meaning the physical body, subtle meaning the mind intelligence, and the soul, 3 levels of identity. And when we look at success, we see different types of success according to those 3 different levels. And they're all parts of success. But we see that the success of the soul is so much more meaningful because it's more permanent, it's more lasting than any of the other ones. And we talked about briefly 3 examples of ingredients for success. And then the ultimate success being choosing Krishna's kingdom or Krishna? Krishna. Ultimate success, we pick Krishna and Krishna helps and does the rest. And the next steps, which we'll talk about now, but for those interested in the next session, which is next week, same time, same place, I hope, navigating difficulties, and we go through difficulties that we all go through and how we can navigate them through the Vedic literature. Anybody interested in kind of going deeper in your own spiritual journey, there's 2 things that I'd suggest. One is this thing, again, you can take a picture, or if you just go to the desk, they can get you signed up. There is a QR code down here as well for this one. But it's basically a discussion groups. So it's a small group of people that come together on a regular basis, sometimes in person, sometimes online, because I know many of us probably will struggle to get to the manor every week or something. But it's a regular association, we talk about association, just a small group that we can discuss and learn about spiritual things, reflect, help us grow in our life. And the second thing which I mentioned was Gita Life, if anybody's interested. And that's a wrap. So, any questions, comments, feedback? Yes.
Your example of journey of not distracted by the song. I'm just connecting to what you earlier said about who Krishna loves the most. He will take this venture. But we do not, the way I see it is, actually, as you start that journey to each terminal path, in that process of, you are connected to Krishna. Actually, by the time you go to stop on the tree, you will be in a process that is just not of going finite. So when that stage comes, when you have to give up your material connection, you'll be ready. So
yeah,
that's the way I look.
Yeah, that's a good way to bring it back to the analogy. So it's a very good point. Thank you.
Can I ask a silly question?
Yes. There's no such thing as a silly question.
So, in the sixth success, which is detachment. So here, are we referring to, just for an example, say someone loses their job. So does it mean like not feeling sad about it and just like saying detaching yourself, or does it mean just moving on from there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So apologies for going back into the story of Mahabharata, for those who don't know. But in the story of Mahabharata, at some point, Arjuna, who's the personality we described, his son gets practically brutally murdered. I'm going to put it that way, just to simplify it, right? In a very wrong way. Now, Arjun didn't know about this, but at the end of the day, when he came back into the camp, he heard about it. Now, bear in mind, by this point, Arjun had heard the whole Gita. He'd heard about all these successes. He had heard about this idea that actually you need to renounce, just do everything and just pick me and just let everything go. But Arjuna still cried. What did Krishna say? Arjun, stop crying. I just spoke about the Bhagavad Gita, renounce yourself. No, Krishna actually gave him his shoulder to cry on. What can we learn from that? Emotions are very natural in our life. Going through situations, going through the emotions is very natural, normal, and correct, actually. But what tends to happen is that we take what we've been through and start extending it. We should go through the emotion, but not live in the emotion. Because what did Arjun do the next day? He went straight back onto the battlefield. And in fact, he used his emotions from the previous day to be more aggressive on the battlefield the next day. So he tapped into the power of his emotions to help him in his goal of success and achieving the success he had, which was obviously winning the war.
Some sessions on no death.
On?
No death.
No death, okay.
Our journey continues. So Arjun was very, very sad, and he was someone wanted to correct his son's spirit. Krishna said he's fine. Still he wanted to, know whether he really find out about let him connect. And he asked him, how are you, son? And that spirit said, who are you? So whatever, relations we, think that they are real, after this incarnation, nothing,
Yeah.
no bondage.
Yeah, they're real, but they're temporary.
Yeah.
They pertain to the body. We have never actually seen the person we're speaking to. Because what happens at death? The person's right there in the coffin. But we say that my father's left. My father's no more, but he's right there. But the reality is we've never seen him. But we recognize that something is now missing. The real person is missing. And so even though our relationship was based on the body, based on the mind maybe, we recognize that the person is no more, and therefore our relationship is no more alive. So yes.
One of the one of the misconceptions about Vairagya or detachment is that we lose touch with the reality, relative reality. If you don't understand properly, and we don't develop the right relationship with the relative world, which is, for example, like Aishwarya, if you don't have a right relationship, you would not appreciate, not have gratitude, respect.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything else.
So a lot of people misunderstand that detachment means getting rid of everything, emptying the cupboards, downsizing the house, getting rid of the car. I have a phone, but I'm practicing spiritual life. I have my car keys in my bag. I have a laptop. I'm not detached. Well, real detachment is not about getting rid of things. It's about not being owned by those things and knowing how to utilize those things in a proper way. If we spoke about the emotions, right? If we're attached to the emotion, we live in the emotion. But if we detach from the emotions, then we go through the emotion and get out the other side. because emotions have its place. In the same way, anything in this world, whether it's like you're talking about wealth, opulence, laptop, mobile, it's like we have them, but we know its place. We don't overemphasize our material life because it has its place. The house has its place because it gives us the shelter that we need for the psychological needs of our life. We have the relationships because it gives us the comfort of the love and the relationships. But we know its place. We use those to support our bigger journey in spiritual life.
Essential things, something that you can live without.
Yeah.
So whatever we say, for example, what we put at home and say, oh, I would be totally, detached and we would survive.
Yeah.
But then, our aim here is to get to, supreme mode. So we have to survive. We have to flow. We have to, shelter ourselves. But these are essential things.
Yeah.
But you can live without, so many things that you don't need.
Yeah. It's about introspecting. It's about looking inside us and going like, do I actually need this in my journey? Or is it a distraction for us that we don't need? And if it's a distraction we don't need, then we get rid of it. But if it's a distraction that comes with other things we need, then we recognize that I need to try and minimize the distraction in some way. So yeah, I'm conscious, I think it is 6. So if you do need to leave, please don't feel bound. But if you would like to spend time discussing, talking, I'm more than happy to do so. But yeah, Hare Krishna.